S&P 500 has a magnificent rally during the week of Thanksgiving. Bitcoin also bounces off the lows. Make sure you put call ratio that like and subscribe button. Let's talk about it. So Bitcoin here has bounced off of a weekly support level. This week, Bitcoin traded up to the year open range, which was just shy of last week's open. Looking at the technical indicators, the 21 exponential moving averages has migrated all the way down to here. That's going to give you a little bit of confluence. You have resistance being the year open range, as well as the daily 21 exponential moving average and the monthly VWAP. Multiple confluences of resistance in one area. The downtrend since the all-time high was put in has been pretty consistent and pretty aggressive. It's a fresh monthly breakdown out of a multiple month range with a lot of downside continuation. Although it's not the capitulation style bounce that we would want to see if the lows were in, it is still very much a capitulation style event. We saw a magnificent drop on long-term holder supply and no bounce in sight. We also saw a capitulation of short-term holders, more open interest than ever before. So even though price action isn't showing us a gigantic bounce on Bitcoin, we did in fact see a gigantic bounce on the S&P 500. So why is Bitcoin taking so long to catch up? We're going to talk about that. We are at a crucial area for the S&P 500. So I did close that 6100 put insurance style trade down, just like I said I was going to when we closed back above the monthly VWAP here on this day. But I am in fact looking to put that position on one more time if we fail at the current November swing high. So as you can see here on the CFD product, we are retesting November's open right now. We did that on Friday. If you go into the intraday time frame, you can see how this level was literally holding price all day long until the last hour. So it does look like it's going to break out. That was a nice strong close above. Well, here's the thing. This is the November open, and that is also your November swing high. Back earlier in November, we traded up to that level and rejected, thus putting in a lower high. If you look at your XLK versus XLE ratio, this is tech versus energy, you did not see that same aggressive bounce. If you look at growth versus value, you have the same thing. You did not see that aggressive bounce. So moving on into next week, if the S&P 500 trades up into this double top and rejects, I will throw that 6100 put back on. Long dated. As long as we're trading under 68.85, I will hold that position. If we are trading above this price, then I will close that position, just in case this thing has an epic drop next week. If the S&P has a nasty drop next week, will Bitcoin also suffer that same drop? Right now, we haven't done anything on Bitcoin. We still have not made a fresh year low, and we are rejecting the year open range. So if Bitcoin does start to trade back under the January low here, I would probably have a downside target of this swing low, which is last week's low, and then a longer term target of April's low, which would make a fresh yearly low on Bitcoin. You're still just trading as an inside candle until you break below this low down here. I'm not expecting that to happen. I'm just going to position myself for that to potentially happen if the S&P 500 fails at that November high. If we look at the S&P 500 put to call ratio, it fell below 45. Whenever we see the equity put to call ratio fall below 44, in the past 4 years, this led to a quick pullback for stocks. S&P 500 was lower 1 week later 76% of the time. If we look at the VIX put to call ratio, we saw a spike up to 147. This also often leads to an increase in the VIX over the next 2 weeks while the S&P pulls back. So basically what we saw on this rip your face off rally was a very thin traded market. I don't know if you know this, but the Chicago Mercantile Exchange lost all systems last week. So thinly traded markets. That is the reason why going into next week, I think we need to be very cautious on Bitcoin and very cautious on the S&P. So the level to watch, 68.85. If you fail there, I think you need to be a little bit more defensively positioned going into the end of the year. You guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Make sure you guys trade safe, trade smart, and as always, happy trading, everybody.